We all know what type of season it is. It's the gift-giving season. And last week I talked about the best present I ever got under the Christmas tree. Specifically, the Nintendo Entertainment System. And you know what? Video games have evolved a lot over the years, so let's talk about video games and storytelling for the month of December. And welcome back to the heart of the stories we tell. I'm Rob the host, and this is another look deep into what makes a story, a theory on storytelling by a storyteller who believes that every story has merit. And tonight's episode is the games that control stories and put them in your hand. So we're going to start with a company called Telltale Games. They didn't invent the genre, but they definitely made the most popular versions. We're going to talk about the fact that they did Tales from the Borderlands. They had a little bit of a run-in with a famous comic book character or two. And of course, one of the most popular games and genres of all, Game of Thrones. They started off, though, with a game known as The Walking Dead. And they have a few others in there, too. Like Minecraft, just little things. The whole thing is based on the idea of, as you go, you pick and choose what happens and what your character says. If that sounds familiar, maybe you've read a book or two that's like it. It's basically a choose-your-own-adventure book, just made into a video game. Now, the way they do it is they put a few action sequences in. It's an interactive movie as much as a video game. In fact, there's some that would say it's not a video game. But it's one step removed from the role-playing games that were paper and dice, because there's still some limit to what you can do. So, what is the difference, really? Well, let's take a look at something that's been all of them. Something that's been a book, a movie, an interactive video game, and even a choose-your-own-adventure book. Let's talk about Batman. Yeah, I know. Like it takes that much for me to talk about Batman. So at the end of the day, Batman is always going to be Batman. But when you take on his role, well, in a role-playing game, you can do anything you want as long as the GM lets you. In a choose-your-own-adventure or in a Telltale game, you have to go by the limits of what's there, either in the printed word or in the computer itself. Now, in the case of Telltale, I want you to watch this. See that blinking X? That means push X. See that blinking O? That means push O. That means there's really nothing going on. It's really a fake interaction. Again, more like a interactive movie that's just making you feel like you're Batman. And I have to admit, it works. There's a lot of people that watch this and feel the same way they do as if you're in Arkham. Pushing that triangle made you knock out the bad guy. I did mention that it does feel really awesome, even if it is a fake amount of interaction. But there's other types of interaction, too. Ones that matter at least a little bit more. See, now we're with Bruce. And Bruce is kind of hurt, and it's actually intermixed with the parts before. But watch what happens when we get to a dialogue choice.
The city is safer now, but it's made you a target. And people will keep you.
See those buttons again? You get to choose, and if you don't choose anything, it automatically defaults to nothing. However, once you choose what he says, you direct the story, and the story changes, right? Well, yes and no.
Hi, Bruce.
Let's watch one that's a slightly more important choice. See, you push the button.
Hi, Bruce. Well, I tee him up and he knocks him down. That's how Mr. Wayne and I do business. Thank you again, everyone, for your unwavering support.
That cutscene is the exact same, regardless of which button you push.
Together,
just with a very slight twist. In fact, that's one of the things the writers of these Telltale games are best at. Figuring out dialogue choices that don't really matter, but look like they matter. And they're full of these things. And that's kind of cool. And I wonder if I'd be capable of writing so many options, 4 in this case, for each and every interaction.
Billionaire angle?
Well, let's take a look at this one.
The sooner we make nice with the donors, the sooner everyone will leave you alone.
Relax, it was important.
Not more than this.
Yeah, there's a minor differential depending on which one you chose, but it's minor. The story continues on 90% the same way. Now, here we're going to take a look at, you're allowed to walk around. This feels more like a video game, at least a point-and-click video game, but not like an Arkham Knight or an
Beat it.
any of the other mainstream games. Definitely nothing like what we covered before. All you're doing is you're walking around and looking at the different things. You're getting the story, in an interactive way, which is really cool, especially with things like this where you can investigate the graffiti the statue had, or just about anything else. But at the same time, as you're watching this, it doesn't really matter. The choices you make are very superficial.
I'm all over the visit. Oh, Mum and Dad, they put so much work in here.
Well, those were better days.
That they were.
Now you see where it says Oswald will remember that? That's the important choices. Those are the most important choices. Those are the ones that actually dictate which way the game goes. And at the end of each chapter, which is how Telltale sells their stories in chapters, episode 1 this was, you see these little things. So, did you stick up for Harvey in front of Falcone? Well, are you in the majority of people or the minority of people? What about with your next choice? In this case, that would be... oh, where's the button? Did you provide a quote for Vicky's story? Now then, what about did you break the dock shooter's arm? Who did you give Falcone's data to? All of which are semi-important bits of information that tell you a little more and change the story ever so slightly. So what does this tell us about this mode of storytelling? Well, again, it's kind of like an interactive movie, and Telltale's become a very good expert at it. What they do is they formulate one plot, they use it to convey one story idea, and then they put little tiny branches here and there to make you feel like you're the one making the choices. And those little things where it says things like, so-and-so will remember this, or this is important, make you feel, even if you're not really involved in this story, making it your story, even though it's one story being told to millions of people. Now, the Telltale Games started this, although again, they really took it from other point-and-click adventure games and other interactive movies, and of course, those choose-your-own-adventure books that I brought up before. But they're far from the only ones. In fact, quite a few independent game makers today are making them. My personal favorite, Life is Strange. When you take on the role of Maxine Caulfield. And who's she? Well, she's a photographer student who can control the flow of time. Yeah, pretty cool power set. But at the end of the day, it's still make a single binary choice or a choice between 2 or 3 options, and then the story really goes 90% the same way, until you get to the end, and then there's some major choice. The major difference with Life is Strange is that whole idea of saving and then going back to try again is built right in. Because Max can control time, you can literally rewind and try each set of answers, unless you run out of power or are too injured. As we look at video game stories, we have to realize that they're very different than other types of stories because of the control they give you. But this particular type is what we would call on the rails. The choices are mostly fictitious, and for the most part, it's no different than reading a choose-your-own-adventure book. For now, I hope that you enjoyed this look into video games, because we're going to keep it up. Next week, I think we're going to cover something a little less on the rails, though, and a little more open world. Not quite like the Zelda we were talking about. Originally, I was going to go Grand Theft Auto, but I decided that story isn't as good as ones that I really want to cover. I thought about doing Assassin's Creed, but I already did one about Desmond, and I'm doing one for the movie. So we're going to talk about its brother, the Watchdogs. Who let the dogs out? Woof. If you want to see it, then you're going to have to like, subscribe, and comment, and then join me back here next time as we take a walk through the heart of the stories we tell. Thanks for watching.